It had been 5 years since Darian moved into his first apartment. A tiny top-floor unit in a worn 4-story building, cramped, a little weathered, but to him, it was perfect. It was his first taste of true independence. The brick exterior cracked from time and weather. The stairwell echoed with every step. But none of that mattered. The view from the top made him feel like he was finally above it all. Free, untouchable. If only he had known. Something else was already living there. And it had been waiting for him patiently, quietly, just beyond the edge of sight. Darian came home exhausted, the weight of the day pulling him straight to the bedroom. Shoes off, coat flung aside, he collapsed onto the bed, eager to drift into a long, undisturbed sleep. But just as he turned to get comfortable, something moved. A flicker, barely visible in the narrow gap between the bedside table and the drawers. His heart skipped. He sat up, every nerve on edge. Slowly, he crept toward the space, bracing himself for… what exactly? Nothing, just darkness and dust. He chuckled nervously, shaking it off, but something had moved, and it had made sure he saw it. A few nights later, Darian settled into his couch, letting the hum of a movie and the crunch of popcorn fill the silence. It was finally a normal night, until he heard it. A single, sharp floorboard creaked directly behind him. His head snapped around, eyes wide. The bowl nearly slipped from his hands. Nothing. Just the quiet room behind him, still and empty. But something had shifted. The air was thicker now, heavier, like it was watching. He turned off the TV, suddenly too aware of every shadow. That familiar, chilling feeling crept in. He wasn't alone. Not anymore. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Darian lay with his back to the room, as he always did. He never liked the feeling of empty space behind him. But this time, it was worse. There was weight in the darkness, a pressure that seemed to pulse just inches away. He couldn't see it, but he could feel it, like a pair of invisible eyes boring into his spine. He shifted, trying to shake the sensation, but it clung to him like damp air. Something was in the room, watching, waiting. And it was growing bolder with every passing night. The strange occurrences didn't stop when the sun came up. In fact, they only got stranger. Darian began catching glimpses, just flashes, of a small white figure peeking around corners in broad daylight. Once by the bathroom door, another time near the kitchen. Each time it was gone the second he looked. No sound, no movement, just that awful stillness. It didn't make sense. Ghosts weren't supposed to linger in the light. But this thing, it didn't care about rules. Whatever it was, it wanted to be seen. And it was starting to show itself more and more, with each passing day. 2 months in, Darian was almost used to the weirdness. Almost. That night, he was cooking dinner, expecting his date to arrive any minute. When the buzzer rang, he smiled, wiped his hands, and walked to the door. Just a quick glance through the peephole. But what he saw froze him cold. Not his date, not a neighbor. A small, pale, white figure stood inches from the door, staring straight into the peephole. Expressionless, motionless. Darian stumbled back, breath caught in his throat. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't human. And it hadn't just come to visit, it wanted in. Darian's heart pounded as he stumbled into the kitchen, drawers slamming open as he searched for anything to defend himself. His hand wrapped around a large kitchen knife, but the moment he held it, a bitter laugh escaped his lips. What good was steel against something like that? The buzzer screamed again, longer this time, relentless. It didn't sound like a visitor anymore. It sounded like a warning, or a demand. He placed the knife on the counter, hands shaking, mind racing. This wasn't a break-in. This was an intrusion of something else entirely. And it wasn't leaving. The buzzing drilled into Darian's skull, non-stop, maddening. Every instinct screamed to stay away, but something stronger pulled him toward the door. With trembling fingers, he unlocked it and yanked it open, bracing for anything. But there was nothing. Just the hallway, silent, empty, still. The buzzing had stopped. No sign of the white figure. No sign of anyone. His knees buckled and he collapsed to the floor, the silence pressing down like a weight. His vision blurred, his limbs refused to move, and as the edges of the world went dark, one final thought echoed in his mind. What just happened? Darian awoke in his bed, disoriented and drenched in cold sweat. Morning light filtered through the blinds, but something felt off. The last thing he remembered was the door, the buzzing, the emptiness. Now, somehow, he was back in bed, with no memory of how he got there. A faint smell hit his nose, burnt food. His eyes widened. The stove. He stumbled to his feet, heart racing. Something wasn't right. He hadn't turned it off. He was sure of it. So who? Or what had? Every step toward the kitchen felt heavier than the last, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Smoke lingered in the air, the pasta slightly burnt, but the stove was off. Darian stared at the dial, throat dry. He hadn't turned it. He was sure. Then came the pounding, frantic fists slamming against the front door. He rushed over and flung it open. His girlfriend nearly collapsed into his arms, sobbing, trembling. She'd been trying to reach him for over an hour. The buzzer, his phone, nothing. She had to beg a neighbor to let her in. She and the neighbor had been banging on his door for 30 minutes. But Darian, he hadn't heard a single sound. Darian moved out just weeks later, trading that cursed apartment for a small one-bedroom house. Life slowly returned to normal. The air felt lighter. The shadows no longer moved when he wasn't looking. Still, every now and then, he'd see something. A shape in the corner of his eye, a figure at the end of the hall, gone when he turned. But it was rare now. Distant. Whatever haunted that apartment hadn't followed. It had stayed behind, waiting, watching. That place hadn't wanted to hurt him. No, it wanted him to stay forever, and it almost got what it wanted. Weeks later, Darian learned something strange. While chatting with a former neighbor, they mentioned the apartment above his, how it had been vacant for years. But Darian lived on the top floor. There was no apartment above. Confused, he asked the landlord, who hesitated before revealing the truth. The building once had a 5th floor, sealed off after a fire decades ago. No tenants, no access, just empty, scorched rooms. And yet, footsteps had echoed above him at night. Whispers drifted down through the vents. Something had lived in the forgotten space above, and it had reached down, right into his life. Sometimes Darian drives past the old building, just to see if it's still standing. It always is. Same cracked bricks, same faded paint, same lifeless windows staring out like black eyes. But once, he swore he saw something in that top window, a flash of white, unmoving, watching. It vanished when he blinked, but the feeling stayed with him for hours. Cold, sharp, familiar. Whatever haunted that apartment never left. It didn't need to. It's still there, patient, silent, waiting for the next tenant to unlock the door and invite it in. It was another quiet night in the apartment building, but there was something wrong. The hallway stretched endlessly before me, its cold, sterile walls lined with columns that jutted out at odd angles, making the space feel claustrophobic. The dim, flickering lights cast long shadows, amplifying the eerie silence. No sounds, no movement, just the feeling of being watched. As I walked, my footsteps echoed too loudly, as if they were the only thing keeping me company. The building felt alive, breathing in the darkness, its long, twisting corridors hiding secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to uncover. Over time, something shifted in this place. It was subtle at first, a feeling that crept up on me like I was never truly alone. The hallway, once familiar and comforting during breaks, now felt oppressive, as if it were closing in on me. The air was thick with a strange, unsettling energy. Even the silence felt heavier. I'd walk down the hallway late at night, knowing no one else was around. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Something had changed here, something that made the once peaceful building feel like a place I didn't belong. My bedroom shares a wall with a maintenance closet, nothing unusual. But some nights, when everything else is quiet, I hear her. A girl's voice, soft and muffled, talking just on the other side of that wall. At first I thought it was sound traveling from another apartment, but there isn't one. Just that closet. Dark, locked, and supposedly empty. Her voice never makes sense. It's not a conversation. Just murmurs, fragments of words like she's stuck in a loop. Try to ignore it, but deep down I know what I'm hearing isn't supposed to be there. And it's getting closer. It happened more than once, too many times to be a mistake. I'd take the stairs, unlock my door, step inside, but it wasn't my apartment. It was 514. The layout was identical, but the energy was different. Off. Once, I walked in and saw a girl my age, sitting at her desk, startled. We both froze. I apologized and backed out, confused and shaken. My key had worked, but when I tried again later, it didn't. My key doesn't unlock 514. I've tested it. There's no explanation. Somehow, for brief moments, I wasn't just opening a door. I was crossing into something else. The alarms blared, shrill and relentless, echoing through the halls. My roommate panicked, insisted we leave, even though I usually stayed put during false alarms. Just to calm her, I agreed. We stepped into the hallway, completely empty, the sound of the alarm bouncing off the cold walls. As we reached the end, confusion set in. There was no elevator, just a door where it should have been. Wrong. Out of place. My roommate grabbed my hand, terrified. I laughed it off, but deep down, something wasn't right. I opened the door, expecting the stairwell or elevator, but instead, we found more hallway. We stepped through, expecting clarity. But all we found was more hallway, identical, narrow, twisting. The door slammed shut behind us, and suddenly we were trapped in a maze of repetition. One hallway led to another, and then another, each one dimmer, more distorted than the last. We ran, hearts pounding, panic rising. Doors creaked, lights flickered. The air grew heavier with each step. My roommate was near tears, and I couldn't breathe. It felt like we were being watched, like something was guiding us deeper. The walls closed in, and time lost meaning. It wasn't just a building anymore. It was alive. Just when we thought we'd be trapped forever, we opened another door, and somehow we were back, standing right in front of our apartment like we'd never left. The fire alarm fell silent, replaced by the murmur of annoyed residents returning to their rooms. We stared at the elevator, now right where it was supposed to be. The strange door we walked through, gone. Just smooth wall and polished metal. My roommate and I didn't speak. We didn't need to. Whatever we experienced wasn't normal. Something in this building had twisted reality, and for a moment, we were lost in its design. Since that night, nothing has felt the same. The hallway still stretches on forever, but now it hums with something unseen, something waiting. Was it a spirit tied to 514? A glitch in the fabric of this place? Or something darker, older, hiding in the walls? I don't have answers, just the memory of walking through doors that shouldn't exist, of hearing voices where there should be none, of unlocking a stranger's life with my own key. Whatever's here doesn't want to be found, but it watches, and I can't help but wonder if one day it'll open a door for someone else. I still live here, 6th floor, same apartment, but every creak, every flicker of light feels like a warning. I avoid the hallway at night. I don't take the stairs alone anymore. And sometimes I press the elevator button, and it opens on the wrong floor. No one believes me, not really. They think it's stress or exhaustion. But I know what I saw. I know where I've been. There's something beneath the surface of this building, something hiding in its endless halls, its shifting doors, its whispers through the walls. And I don't think it's finished with me yet.